All right. Did you miss us? Did you miss us? JB Wins and Dogon SS. We are back once again, continuing on the tradition of the Conscious Approach channel on YouTube. And if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music, the Conscious Approach podcast. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you very much for listening and or watching. We certainly appreciate you giving us your support as we continue to kick out this logical content. We took a week off for anyone who follows along with us. We took a week off. I had to do some traveling stuff for my daytime job. So bit of a scheduling conflict. We just decided to give ourselves a week off, figured no harm, no foul. Regroup, come back better than ever. So here we are. Thanks to everybody who has been waiting patiently for us to continue on with this. Before we get things kicked off, as always, I want to say, if this is your first time catching wind of what we like to do here, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment, hit the like button, let us know what you think about the commentary in this or any other video. Also, we are now available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music for anyone who prefers to listen to us audio style. If you're not in position to check out the videos, if you're driving in the car, if you're sitting at work, and your manager will get mad because you watching videos on YouTube, just go ahead and pop us on the phone, hit up Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts. We are now there in audio form, just trying to be available in any and every way possible. But with that out of the way, man, we'll go ahead and get things kicked off with tonight's proceedings. Have several interesting topics to kick around the can tonight on Conscious Approach. So preemptively, of course, thanks to everybody who chimes in on the chat. And also thanks to everybody who will chime in on the individual video uploads. Without you, we, of course, would not be juiced up to continue to do this. So with that out of the way, we're going to go ahead and get things kicked off. And the first topic that we are going to get into today is the Ryan Clark and RG3 saga. So to set this up, we got a lot to get through, and I want to be as precise with timing as possible. So I'm just going to get right into it. For anyone who is unaware, Robert Griffin III, Ryan Clark, both former professional football players for the NFL. They are now in the media. They are talking media heads. They are gas bags. They give their sports opinions, their sports takes. RG3 used to work for ESPN. ESPN fired RG3, not because of anything that he did wrong, but, corporate layoffs. RG3 was let go. Now RG3 is doing his own thing. And he recently, from news that I read, signed with Fox Sports. So he's now over there on Fox with, those people doing his thing. He's no longer on the mothership, formerly known as ESPN. And what got these two going viral, crazy, actually, this was talked about in a lot of different spaces, was, the WNBA season just kicked off. The Indiana Fever with Caitlin Clark played the Chicago Sky with Angel Reese. During the game, Caitlin Clark fouls Angel Reese. Angel Reese gets aggressive and acts like she's going to go off on Caitlin Clark. So there's, commentary in the ensuing aftermath of the game. RG3 on his podcast said he believes that Angel Reese hates Caitlin Clark. I did watch this. I got the impression that RG3 was speaking strictly from a basketball competition standpoint. I didn't think that he was getting into anything other than that. He was just saying she hates the girl in a basketball sense. And Ryan Clark on the pivot responded. And only the way Ryan Clark can respond in situations like this. He essentially said RG3 is not qualified to speak in this way because he essentially said RG3 is not qualified to speak in this way because RG3 has a white wife. And because you're not with a black woman or raising any black daughters, you aren't having conversations about what black women have to go through. And so you aren't qualified to speak on this. RG3 responded by saying that family is off limits. You cross the line. That's not a good look for you, nor is it a good look for ESPN. And eventually, after a standoff, Ryan Clark apologized publicly. So that's pretty much the gist of it. But let's go ahead and get into it so that we don't waste too much more time. I'll try to go through these sequentially. First thing that we are going to talk about, the first thing that we are going to show is Ryan Clark responding to RG3 saying that he believes Angel Reese hates Caitlin Clark. So this was Ryan Clark saying he believes. This was Ryan Clark responding to RG3 after RG3 said on his show he thinks that Angel Reese hates Caitlin Clark.
We moved in to being able to read the expressions of a person and know their intent, know their character, know their perspective. But he does understand hate because I think he also understands the hate of self. When you look at the play, which is all we can speak to as professionals, all we can speak to as analysts, Angel Reese pushed one of her teammates. Caitlin Clark had a hard foul, which is part of basketball. I feel like it was assessed correctly. And Angel Reese's reaction is the sort of reaction you get in a situation when you feel like you took an intentionally hard foul. That's competitiveness. That's rivalry. That's not hate. And so now, though, when RG3 jumps on to the hate train or to the angry train, and now follows along with what we saw from Keith Olbermann, what we saw from Dave Portnoy, as they poured on to Angel Reese to make her the villain in Caitlin Clark's heroic or hero story. Right. The one thing we know about RG3 is he's not having conversations at his home about what Black women have to endure in this country, about what young Black women and athletes like Angel Reese have had to deal with being on the opposite side of Caitlin Clark's rise and ascension into stardom. Now, when you look at it, I think A'ja Wilson is the face of the league. A'ja Wilson is the best player in the league. Caitlin Clark is the most important player in the WNBA. And a ton of her fandom has come along with some racial bias or some racial pieces to why people love her so much. And so now, if you're RG3, when is the last time within your household you've had a conversation about what she's dealing with? You haven't been able to do that because in both of your marriages, you've been married to white women. You haven't had opportunities to have those conversations to educate you on what they're feeling, what Black women deal with, what they're seeing when they think of a young Angel Reese. And the whole time that he's mimicking Angel Reese and bobbing his head and moving his neck while he's doing this whole piece, his wife is in the back, amening and clapping. And so to me, it's just another situation that now this young lady has to deal with. When I worked with RG3, he would make all of these sort of corny jokes about milk and how much he loved it and how important it was. And he always points out on social media the color of his wife's skin, as if the color of her skin is what makes her special, as if the color of her skin is what makes her a good wife. I've met the lady, I've had a conversation with her. Right. I think she's more than that. But it also leads to what Black women deal with a lot from Black men who have chose to date or marry outside of their race. They always feel like they have to go the extra mile to prop up the woman that they're married or the woman that they're with over Black women by denigrating Black women. I feel like we should have an opportunity to move past that and understand that Angel Reese can be great in her own right, as Caitlin Clark is as well. Caitlin Clark is a likable and lovable superstar. She pays homage to the stars of the past. She pays homage to the Black women that have come before her. And now she is carrying the mantle forward. So there's no need to pin those two against each other and paint them based on stereotypical tropes. And I think this is what I like RG3 to know, that no matter how much he continues to echo the microaggressions of racists, he'll be no less Black than me.
Hold up.
That last part, I do not believe him. I do believe he thinks that RG3 is less Black than him. I do not believe that for 1 second.
That was gold, man.
All right, so but it doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop there, folks. You know, we're trying to get through it as quickly as we can. So here is Robert Griffin III's response to Ryan Clark and what Ryan Clark had to say.
It's your boy RG3, and I just wanted to get on here and talk to you guys because there's been a lot of buzz, a lot of conversations about my sports take that Angel Reese hates Caitlin Clark, which was purely based in basketball. But I think all of you know there's a line in life that you just simply don't cross. Wives and children are always off limits. And Ryan Clark has sprinted past that line. Ryan Clark didn't like my sports take that Angel Reese hates Caitlin Clark. And that's fine. It's okay. It's part of the game. Sports media, I'm going to have an opinion. This person might not agree with it. That person might not agree with it. But what you don't do is turn around and personally attack me and my family just because you don't agree with a sports opinion that is purely based off the sport. I didn't make it personal. But what that really shows is just how low of a person Ryan Clark is. But Ryan, across the line, man. You made it personal and some. I really believe there should be no space in sports media for personal attacks. I've said it before. But certainly personal attacks against wife and children have always been off limits. Brian, you attacked me and my family in a public forum on a level that's how low of a human being you are.
Damn.
Yeah.
All you want. Challenge my takes, but keep my family and my wife out of it. That's a boundary that should always be respected. Always. Ryan Clark personally attacking me and my family because he disagreed with my sports opinion is a bad look for ESPN. It's cowardly, it's spineless. Ryan Clark personally attacking me and my family. Personally, because he disagreed with my sports opinion. It was a bad look for him as a man. I hope you get the help you need, brother.
Oh shit.
Yeah, you can't leave out the hope you get the help you need part. Gotta throw that in there. And so after all of the hoopla and the back and forth, the hugabaloo, the verbal scuffle, Ryan Clark ended up apologizing. So real quick, this says former NFL star Ryan Clark apologizes for dragging Robert Griffin III's wife into Angel Reese debate. Former NFL player Ryan Clark issued an apology to RG3 for bringing his wife into a debate about Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. So here's the quote. All of it started over an Angel Reese take that he felt was a sports take that I didn't feel that way about. I felt it was away from the court. I felt it was away from basketball. I took a take that was personal to another person and made it personal to myself, and I shouldn't have done that. I wanted to defend a young black woman, which ended up being an attack on him, he felt, or at least he said, an attack on his family, and that was never the case or never the intent of mine. She should not have been brought up in me trying to make a point about how having black women close to you and the things that you learn from them can help you in the way that you approach and speak to and about them. She didn't need to be the illustration of that. I can speak positively about what they are without making the insinuation that it's something that non-black women don't do well. To Greta or Greet or Gretty, I'm guessing that's his wife's name, RG3's wife's name. I was out of line. I was out of bounds. I apologize to all people who don't like RG's take or takes or the way that he moves. See. Or even if you just in this conversation take my side and want to support me, leave his family alone. Family should be off limits. I started that by bringing her into it. I see that no matter what my intent was, the impact was different. If I had to do it all over again, I would do it a different way. Clark made the comment while calling out Griffin for boarding the hate train after Reese's scuffle with Clark over the weekend while making Clark quote unquote heroic. So of course that is his opinion that he was making Caitlin Clark. That is Ryan Clark's opinion, rather, that RG3 was attempting to make Caitlin Clark heroic by boarding the Angel Reese hate train. So that pretty much sets the stage for this whole thing. So Ryan Clark went the route of saying, you have a white wife and you don't have any black women close to you. Therefore, you don't know what black women go through, which makes your comments inappropriate. And clearly, Robert Griffin III did not appreciate that very much. The media world's kind of been talking about this a lot over the past week. So, what is your initial take on all of this, on this whole fiasco? You kind of feel like RG3 was in the right or Ryan Clark was in the right, somewhere in the middle? They both were wrong. What are your initial thoughts on that?
Let me start off with RG3. So for RG3, I think his take on the situation with Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese was a basketball take. It was a sports take. However, I understand what Ryan Clark is coming from because his sports take is through the lens of his worldview. And so what Ryan Clark was doing there was tap dancing because there's only so much you can say publicly about such a touchy situation. And so he did all of this tap dancing and trying to articulate it in such a way that he was basically just trying to get to the fact that RG3's world views is why he's interpreting the Angel Reese Caitlin Clark situation the way that it is. And he thinks that RG3's world views is also reflected through the wives that he chose. And you can't, and this is where I'm coming at Ryan Clark in a sense that you can't do that. Working for ESPN, if you're in a barbershop and you want to call RG3 corny because of his white milk memes and stuff that he likes to do, clearly RG3 has a complex with that. I'm pretty sure, he likes to be, called Jungle Bunny in bed or something. I don't know what he's into, but he's clearly into some type of dynamic with that. And so much so that he posted online, which is why Ryan Clark thinks it's corny and all this other stuff. But so clearly Ryan Clark has something on his chest. He took this as an opportunity to get at RG3. And I feel as though that he should have been wiser about that. And he should have kept that at the barbershop. He should have kept that in between, off camera, off the record. Because the career that he has, even though his job at ESPN is to race bait and make everything this and that, there's a line. And he did a thing where he wouldn't say that on ESPN, but he took it to his own platform. But the thing is, man, when you're working for ESPN, you're working for Disney, whenever you're doing your own thing on your own, podcast, so to speak, you're still under their umbrella. So that's why I think that was a bad look for Ryan Clark. He's entitled to his opinion. I understand where he was coming from with that, but I feel as though he shouldn't have done that. Now he just looks crazy. Now RG3 can step back and say, I was just talking sports. Now you want to drag my wife into this, my family. Come on, playing ultimate victim here. And RG3 did his thing. And I'm pretty sure he has some type of beef with ESPN for how he got let go. And he's taking this as an opportunity to not only throw Ryan Clark under the bus, in the sense that if you want to talk about me and my preferences and whatever, I'm gonna take aim low key at your job too. This is not a good look for ESPN. ESPN, now that's gonna cause some type of ripple effect potentially. And
there's speculation. I gotta look into this a little further, but I read somewhere that ESPN essentially made Ryan Clark apologize.
Yeah.
So the ESPN had to have been involved.
Yeah.
In the whole apology aspect of it.
And with that, it's a situation where Ryan Clark is going to have to tread lightly. So I think that this was I don't think Ryan Clark should have did that. Poor Fred Taylor. Just sitting there, just having to agree with bro. Like, what are you gonna do? Disagree? So I think they should have left that on the cutting room floor. So that's my initial thoughts there. I think that these are two opposing worldviews. Oh, last thing is that, through all of this hugabaloo, as you like to say, online, I found out that, Ryan Clark, has got a white baby mama somewhere in the mix there. So, I don't know what he's doing now, but he's dabbled into the white milk situation himself. So I don't know why he feels as though he's Umar Johnson right now, but here he goes. But what are your thoughts, man, on the Ryan Clark RG3 beef? Do you feel as though one side is right, the other's wrong? What are your thoughts, bro?
I'm more with Robert Griffin III, except when it comes to the leaning into and the white milk and the borderline fetishization. That's where it ends with me.
Yes.
But with respect to this particular situation, I'm more with Robert Griffin III. Now, I hear what you're saying when you say that it's Robert Griffin III's worldview that informs the way that he perceives the Caitlin Clark Angel Reese dynamic. But I got to be honest with you, either I have the same exact worldview as Robert Griffin III, or it is what it is. Because I've been following these two since they were in college. And I do think that Angel Reese has some sort of an axe to grind against Caitlin Clark. I do think that. And I do think that for her is personal. Going all the way back to when they were in college, Angel Reese went out of her way to personally antagonize Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
Like Angel Reese made it about Caitlin Clark specifically, and people tried to equate the behavior between the two, but I didn't really buy that because Caitlin Clark, whenever she trolled, she would just troll in general. Like she would do her thing during games, but she never really antagonized players specifically unless they got into a back and forth during the game with fouls and stuff like that. But generally speaking, Caitlin Clark never really personally antagonized other players specifically, whereas Angel Reese kind of specifically antagonized Caitlin Clark. And then, going into the WNBA, there's been a little tit for tat back and forth. Not to mention the fact that Angel Reese went into a post-game press conference. I believe this was while she was still at LSU. I can't remember when. This was either during her rookie year or when she was finishing up at LSU. And she said, if y'all want to make me the villain, I'll be the villain. I'm happy doing that. Like she said that. So Angel Reese has done herself no favors in creating this perception that she has a personal axe to grind against Caitlin Clark. And I perceive it to be that way as well. And so maybe me and Robert Griffin III have the same worldview, but I kind of feel like he wasn't totally out of bounds by saying, now maybe using the word hate is a bit strong. Maybe the word hate, maybe you can use a different word, but I kind of feel like the sentiment of Angel Reese having something personal against Caitlin Clark isn't out of left field. And I don't think that it means, therefore, that you have to analyze Robert Griffin III's personal situation in order to come to a conclusion as to why he would come up with that idea. But I think the reason why Ryan Clark went there is because I believe Ryan Clark, ironically, has something personal against RG3.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and so he used that as his opportunity to sort of pour salt on the wound because he either doesn't like RG3 as a guy or isn't a fan of RG3's personal decisions. And we see this a lot, whenever you become that guy who is publicly known as, the one who likes to swirl, depending on the individual, there are going to be people who spare no expense to put that into the conversation whenever it comes to that particular individual and whatever they have to say or do or how they conduct themselves professionally. And I kind of feel like Ryan Clark feels some type of way about the fact that RG3 is cut from that cloth. And so he used this as an opportunity to go there. I didn't really like it because I kind of felt like Robert Griffin III didn't really say anything that out of bounds. But again, this is just me looking at what he said and saying to myself, I kind of see where he's coming from because I as well also feel like Angel Reese has something personal some sort of a personal axe to grind against Caitlin Clark for whatever reason. But here's the thing, that's okay. Like, there's nothing wrong with a little personal animus and hate in sports. Like, I kind of feel like that's good for the spirit of competition. So I don't really have an issue with that. If Angel Reese came out tomorrow and was like, I don't like Caitlin Clark, I'd be like, good. I can't wait to watch their next game.
Agreed.
Like, it is what it is. Like, the spirit of competition is heightened whenever there is a bit of a personal axe to grind, as long as things stay within reason. So I didn't think that was an unreasonable take. So because I didn't feel like that was an unreasonable take, I am therefore led to believe that Ryan Clark went that far because he has something personal against RG3 for whatever reason, whether it's the way he carries himself, some of the things that he may have said previously, maybe the stuff that Robert Griffin III has said about his personal preferences rubbed him the wrong way, which, like I said, I don't really get into all of that superiority complex stuff. I kind of feel like if you want to date and marry white women, that's your prerogative. Personally, I don't see anything wrong with that necessarily, but don't prop it up as if it's like a superior preference. And if that's something that Robert Griffin III does, then I can understand why a person like Ryan Clark will be rubbed the wrong way. So much so to take it to a personal level when it comes to an otherwise innocuous sports take, in my opinion. So I don't really think that this is a situation where anybody was right or wrong. I think it's a clashing of, as you put it, worldviews. But I do kind of think that Ryan Clark took it somewhere unnecessarily for things that don't really have anything to do with the way Robert Griffin III typically does his job.
Yeah, and that's why I feel as though he's jeopardizing, his podcast and his other stuff that he's got going on with a take like this, because as you mentioned, this seems a bit personal between Ryan Clark and RG3. It's so ambiguous. It's so, this isn't a situation where it's like typical ESPN race baiting and Ryan Clark has an assignment and they say, hey, take this side of whatever's going on. And he's got the backing of ESPN and, whatever. If he rubs viewers the wrong way, well, that's his role anyway. His role is to say certain things about race on ESPN.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like, not to cut you off, but I think that Ryan Clark, in the moment that he made those comments, felt protected.
Yeah, I agree.
Because, the way that ESPN, there's a singularity when it comes to ESPN commentary. We've talked about this. And when you start to kind of pull on that thread of racial victimhood, Black women victimhood, Black people victimhood, those statements might be controversial on the surface, but over at ESPN, you're kind of speaking in a friendly space.
Agreed.
And so I kind of feel like, he felt like he could go there safely because he didn't think he'd be reprimanded by ESPN, because that's the kind of rhetoric that they welcome over there.
Exactly. And they welcome the rhetoric, but this was a little too specific.
Right.
This was a little too specific. And anybody, with any level of consciousness knew exactly what he was saying when he was going on that roundabout little whatever. That can get boiled down into 2 or 3 sentences, very direct, and it'll rub everybody the wrong way. So nobody's dumb here. So him using all of these words and saying your wife is more than that, it's like, look, bro, I don't hear that. But that's him trying to, sweep dirt under the rug, cover himself. Like, nah, bro, like you're saying this already. So stand on all of this.
That's the poop sandwich. That's the Stephen A. Smith poop sandwich.
Man. Might want to hear that, man. So I feel as though that he thought he was protected. He thought he was following the script, but ESPN gives you a script. You can't come up with your own and say this is what ESPN would be okay with. And clearly they weren't. So I know on the pivot he's tackled, race things there too. But like I said, they're generally about situations that are, quite broad. And you can talk about social injustice and systemic racism and all of these, things, and you just giving all of these, buzzwords, people will go, oh, okay, well, yeah, but this was very targeted, basically saying that because you date white women, you lack perspective in life.
Yeah.
And that's why you went like that instead of like that. You snapping your fingers. And I know your wife was in the background going, yeah. How you know that?
Yeah.
Unless she was back there. I didn't see her. I don't know. So for him to be doing all that was too much.
Yeah.
So as much as I would say that, hey, Ryan Clark, I might agree with you. I do think RG3, worldviews are a little skewed. I hear him, and this is my thing with RG3, because I couldn't stand him whenever he was calling games, because he would do the stuff I used to accuse Ryan Clark of, making the black joke. So whenever there's a football game and he's calling a game, he's talking all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's annoying, man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, hey, he threw that like it was a watermelon. He didn't really say that. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you mean. He was always bringing up, it's like, okay, bro, we get it. Like, you're on social media a lot and trends. Like,
you're right.
Enough with the bringing up the, like, yeah, I feel what you're saying. Like, he was very, it's like he just couldn't help himself. He was always bringing up the cultural references, the puns, the viral trends. He was always infusing that with his game calling, and it got in the way of the quality of the calling.
100%.
Yeah.
But to me, I equated that to like tap dancing at an all-white function.
Yeah.
And so there's an all-white function. You're the black guy, so you're coming with the rhythm and the black jokes, and he's doing that on air. And so it was corny, and it was annoying, and honestly, it was insulting to me. So I'm like, hey man, I don't care for that. And so and I can separate things. Hey, I'm a big boy. I can separate stuff. I know what's going on. But to me, I felt as though he was doing a lot of pandering. So I do think RG3 has some type of complex situation going on with himself. And Ryan Clark spending enough time with the guy took, like we said, just took this as an opportunity to try to highlight that. But just let that man do him. Ryan Clark, just let RG3 do him. If he's digging himself a grave, continue to let him dig a grave, but don't give him an out. And this situation gave RG3 an out. If Ryan Clark is indeed correct, it gave RG3 this cover to go, hey man, you talking about my family? You're out of bounds, man. You crossing lines and all of that good stuff, man. So it is what it is with these guys. But yeah, man, because I was real critical of Ryan Clark. He cleaned things up with me a little bit. He'll say things here and there. I go, all right, well, he's not a complete clown.
They must have told him. They must have told him to stop. That's probably why. They probably told him to stop.
Yeah, he stopped getting on my nerves as much. And then here he goes with this one. It's like, damn, bro, what the hell are you doing, bro?
Yeah, the thing about Ryan Clark that always annoyed me was I kind of put him and Robert Griffin III in the same boat. But I guess because Ryan Clark's public persona is more black than RG3's, Ryan Clark gets away with it more. But he was always the guy in the majority white room, trying to flaunt his blackness.
Yeah, 100%.
By referencing all of the hood classics. He was always dropping movie lines that come from the hood classic movies and mentioning the rappers and the hip hop and the songs and the rap lyrics. Like, he was just doing it obsessively. Every time he's on Get Up, First Take, or any of these shows, here he goes with the black references. And it's like, look, bro, just be the professional black man who carries himself above board and does a great job.
Thank you.
That actually makes black people look better than you copping to these low-hanging fruits of referencing hood classics and rap songs. So to me, Ryan Clark was just as guilty in that regard as RG3, as far as I'm concerned.
I agree.
But I kind of feel like, look, what separates them two, and this is the last thing that I'll say, when you become the guy, and I can speak to this from personal experience, when you become someone who is known as someone who dates, sleeps with white women, it stays with you, and you will have a moving peanut gallery that spares no expense to bring it up, no matter what the situation is. And just to personalize it real quick, because I have personal experience with this. Now, I'm not trying to say that me and RG3 are in the same category, because I kind of feel like I've been the same person this whole time. So, like, I'm not going to get into a room and try to make everybody well aware of how black I am by making it known how much rap music I know or how many Black Hood classics I've seen. Like, I don't give a crap about any of that. So I've been the same person throughout. But have I dated outside my race, specifically with white women? Yes, I have. Just being totally transparent. And when you become known for that, there is a proverbial target that gets put on your back, and it can become annoying. For 10 years I was a cook, worked part-time at a restaurant. And throughout my tenure working there, my personal preferences became public knowledge. And so, there was the peanut gallery that I had waiting on me every single day that I showed up to work. And, it's like, for the most part, you can kind of shake it off, because I hear most people say, live your life, do what you do. Don't let what people have to say affect you. It shouldn't bother you. And for the most part, I do agree with that. But if you're having a bad day, you're having a bad day. Sometimes you don't want to hear this stuff. And for the most part, I'd show up to work minding my own business. I just want to get through the shift, do my thing, have a good night so I can go home. And some of these individuals, mostly black women, they just heckled me. I was like a bad comedian having a bad stand-up set. It didn't matter what I did or what I said. They would find a way to bring it up. Like, I could walk into the building and I could be like, man, the weather's real nice outside today. And somebody will just pop out from the corner somewhere and they'll say, yeah, but you like them white girls, don't you? And like, bro, I'm not joking. I'm not joking. It was really that. It was really
wow,
that.
Bro. I didn't know it was like that out here.
Yeah. It was really that pervasive. There was nothing that I can do or say. Now, mind you, never mind the fact that while I worked there, I was also very visibly with black women as well. It didn't matter. If I was with one white girl, it just erased all of that. And so into perpetuity, it doesn't matter. It didn't matter what I said or did. Here came the peanut gallery roasting me every single day for this. Like, I couldn't get, like, it was an everyday thing. If I worked 5 shifts a week, I dealt with it 5 days a week. I couldn't serve a plate. I couldn't do anything, say anything. I couldn't make a joke. I couldn't say a comment without one of them saying something about it. It was just never ending. And so, I didn't invite any of that. I'm just minding my own business, living my own life, having my own experiences, and doing what I want to do. But there were several people throughout my time working there who just spared no expense to bring it up. They refused to let it go. They kept peppering me with it every day. And for the most part, I could get over it. But there were days where it got to me, and I would just get annoyed and just clap back, because it's like, hey, look, man, I'm just trying to serve you this rib plate. Like, can we put it down? Like, can we just lay it to rest for 5 minutes so I can do my job? Like, do you have to bring it up every single time? So it can just get aggravating. It really can. It can get annoying. And so I'm not trying to make excuses for Robert Griffin III and his propensity for pandering or his apparent superiority complex, because I do sense that about him. But at the same time, dealing with that can be aggravating. And so if that's his way of lashing out because of how annoying it can get, to have to deal with that on a constant basis, I can somewhat empathize with that because I know what that feels like. It still doesn't excuse propping up your personal preference as if it's somehow inherently superior to another person's. I don't agree with that. So that part I don't like. So all of the weird jokes and how you like milk, I would never talk like that. I just think that that's weird energy. But at the same time, if I'm being frank, a lot of us, we target people who kind of walk in that light, and we just refuse to let it go. And I've lived that personally, so I kind of know how annoying it can be. But otherwise, I kind of feel like, and I don't know RG3 from a can of paint, but it's like, bro, don't force blackness in any particular context. Just be who you want to be, bro. Like, don't do this thing because it invites that kind of scrutiny from people like Ryan Clark. Even if Ryan Clark is guilty of doing the same thing, because publicly, no one's going to go at Ryan Clark for that because he's curated an image for himself as being far more black than you. So it's like, just don't code switch, bro. Be who you want to be, but that can be pretty aggravating. So it's definitely a nuanced conversation, but I kind of think both of them can be clowns from time to time, for sure. I don't think either one of them is absolved, but I do kind of think Ryan Clark went there because of a personal animus he has towards RG3, and I don't think it had much to do with any sports takes.
Yeah, I agree, man. And so, we'll see how this pans out. I think I knew of it. I think I knew of them beefing before this. I don't think this is anything new or whatever. I think Ryan Clark has it out with a couple of people out here in the media streets. So I'm not surprised he's having this back and forth with RG3, man. But yeah, man, interesting dynamic, very nuanced, for sure. But hey, let us know down in the comment section, y'all. What do you guys think about this? Do you guys agree with Ryan Clark that RG3 is just some cornball with some type of complex, which is why he was hating on Angel Reese? Or do you guys agree with RG3 and say, hey, man, it was just a sports take, bro. Don't attack me and my family. Let us know down in the comment section, guys. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I can imagine if this video gets served up on the algorithm, it's going to be people in them comments. Oh, I knew JV Wins was one of them.
Hey, man, the peanut gallery don't stop, baby.
Yeah, it never ends. It never ends, does it?
Hey, man, but to be fair, bro, that's like Tallahassee culture, man. Like when I started working at Walmart, bro, that was the whole thing, bro. It was every day something, So
I don't know, man. I don't know. I think it's everywhere. I think
I mean, no, they were doing that now.
Yeah,
but it's also Tallahassee work culture.
Oh,
man.
I see what you mean. Yeah. No, I mean, but I was doing my thing even outside of work though. So my whole thing has always been just exploring my options. I've always, and I've said that on this channel that I made the decision when I was younger to explore every option just to kind of get those experiences. Now, did I know that it was going to come along with my personal peanut gallery? No, I was not aware of that. I just thought that I was living life. But it is out there and it does follow you. So, it can get annoying is all. My whole point is that can be very aggravating to live with.
No,
when you constantly, no matter what the situation is, have people who are going to throw that in your face every chance they get, even if it's unrelated to the conversation that you're having.
I didn't mean to laugh, man. It's just wild that people do that. I didn't know that was a thing, bro.
Oh, they do it, bro. Yeah. I mean, it's fun. You can laugh. It is funny, but yeah, it happens.
Sheesh.